Hi guys, welcome to OC Kitchen. Well, the thing is that after Lumi uh, showed i9-9900k in RO revision, I was eager to test it, and that's why I bought one. And so it is here with Apex motherboard, G.Skill 400 4600 memories, and there's a problem with the chip that I have and the first one that I have. The problem is this: if you take a look at the temperatures which this chip is getting on, those are very high. This is 5.1, so it's OST at 5.1 gigahertz with which is lowering to 4.9 gigahertz in AVX2. And the problem is this CPU is demanding lower voltage. That's okay. This CPU is getting the same time in this benchmark. Let's say this is after 2 days of testing. This is the same settings which I was using for the test setup. This is the same setup for all i9s which I had. And the thing is, we here have temperatures getting up to 99, 98 degrees, 99 degrees of Celsius. Funny thing is that here thermal throttling is saying that it's getting into the way, and it shouldn't, because the motherboard was told to hold it up to 120 degrees, but it does, and here it shows. What can we say is that this will be saved. Well, those are my test setups or tests which I have made on 5 i9-9900k. Well, it's not that easy to say what is going on here, because this is very, let's say, frustrating for me, as these CPUs are very, very hot. This CPU, this one that I have. I will show you what I mean. Exactly. Well, this is R0 revision, as you can see, but I had 4 other chips, i9-99P0 revision, and all of them were getting better temperatures. Thing is also that this CPU will do sometimes the eager cruncher test, and then it will not do and will not pass Corona or V-Ray benchmark. It will be shut down with 3D, 50, 124 or other absurd number. And I probably, for this chip, I have found the reason, and the reason is not nice. Well, first of all, there has to be another BIOS for this CPU. So this BIOS is 1105, as maybe I remember, or no, let's say, yes, 1105, here we have it. Well, this changed many things. Yeah, this is freebie. So it has successfully finished Y Cruncher, but it will not finish Corona benchmark. And now let's get to details in BIOS because they are very interesting. Well, first of all, if we sync all cores and have overclocked DRAM frequency, for this DRAM it's lower frequency than it should to be because this one is 4600 and this is the timings are 15 or 16 16 28. We have to have offset sign at plus. Okay, this is 70 at plus. This CPU in fact uses lower Vcore with AVX than P0, but with this lower Vcore it is also using much higher VCCO and VCCSA, and there's a problem because the chip is getting very hot. I don't know if it's the direct reason of being that hot, but the thing is, if we get on the tests of these i9s, and here we have thermals, and if we get into thermals like from the CPU on the same thermal paste, you can see here this is P0 revision, and this revision, this is the first one that I had, 76 79 degrees. This is not the delete. Again, this is CPU number 2, no delete, 82 and 81. This is CPU number 3, 88. This is all the time with 1.323. This is BIOS 805. And now we have the CPU number 4 somewhere after delete, maybe CPU 4 R0 revision, and here we have 91 degrees. The Vcore is lower, the voltage is lower. We can see 1.279, but the temperatures here are 91 and 89. The lower time, because there was 1.27 in minutes, the lower time is due to the fact that we have here lower DRAM frequency. And the thing is that at 5 GHz it will get 89 and 84 degrees of Celsius. So not that good. If we look at V-Ray, we can see 70 for something, 77 at second, 78, 9 and 80. And if we get skip the delete, and we will see CPU 4 RO, we will see 91 and 89 degrees with time 1 minute 2 seconds with DRAM at 3200 megahertz. And there is another thing, we will skip this test, but okay, the CPU 1, we will try to get to CPU 1. This is CPU 1, 252 seconds. This is standard 1.23 volts, 86 degrees. The second had 93 degrees. The third had 99 degrees. This is CPUs without delete. But if we get to R0, then we will see we have 99 degrees and throttling at 5.1 gigahertz and lower Vcore 1.279 volts. And it's getting even worse. If we get to memory which is higher, yes, then we will usually hit without any hesitation 99 degrees, and it will show there's thermal throttling, and we will see the drop of those 4 seconds. It's not much, but if you are buying i9-9900k for overclocking, then this CPU, as I got, it's not better than P0 revision. It will give you lower voltage, but in jumps you can see 1.350, and it will go very high with temperatures. So of course after delete all those CPUs are getting better, but R0 revision should be much better in those times. If we get to Y Cruncher version 7, then we will see that this was the first CPU, and we had 87 degrees at P0 revision. Here you have it. And at the second 92, at the third 99. This is I'm sorry, at this third, I don't have third. R0 revision now. So 92 with the low Vcore, but the memories were lowered, and 99 with full stability in Corona with a bit higher Vcore, 1.252. But if we would like to get full stability in with all clocks, we will have 99 degrees and all things are burning with the DRAM 3600s. So the first chip from this revision, R0, is not a great chip in the meaning of overclocking. Now, I don't have another batch, but I have second CPU. This is my first CPU, and this is my second CPU. So it's the same batch, 419, and so this is also the same batch. If the second CPU will show the same results that this one shows, this is not deleted CPU, I repeat, then I will have to say that R0 revision is not better for overclocking, especially for enthusiast overclocking. I don't know, maybe those CPUs are better for liquid nitrogen overclocking, because the overall voltage might be lower for liquid nitrogen or liquid helium. But in terms of this exact overclocking, which is enthusiast, so overclocking at water, liquid, or air, this R0 revision showed that it's much worse than it should be. So as I told you that even though that the voltage, as you can see, at 5 gigahertz will be lower and I will have lower memory frequency, I will have a very high temperature. So this is the problem of this CPUs, of this CPU. But as I told you, I will check another one, and probably I will delete another this CPU and another CPU, and I will try if I can handle those in the name of temperature, and check if it's better than P0 or not. So that's the second CPU. The first one is already here, and this is the second one, so you can see that I've spread the paste very evenly and took the amount that was too much out, so it's the best way to have it performing really good. So I will test another R0 revision chip, but from the same batch. So we will see if this batch is let's say not so good, or I was unlucky with the first CPU. Okay, the second CPU is installed. I'm powering the motherboard and starting the CPU. Of course, I've loaded Wi-Fi defaults, so as for this revision, I have to. I don't know what's going on under the hood right now. So that's the second CPU in not touch state, purely and exactly from the Intel. Yes. Okay. Well, funny how this CPU already has core voltage at the same bias, so 1105 has core voltage of 0.897 volts. I don't know what it means. The previous one was many times at 0.719. Anyway, let's get to the testing, shall we? Okay, now the profile that was made for tests a long time ago in a galaxy far away. So we have 5.1 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, 600 megahertz DRAM, so 3600 DRAM, DRAM timing 16-16-28, standard Vcore voltage for P0 revision, standard DRAM voltage for this RAM to get on 3600 and CL16, and also CPU VCCO voltage from P0 revision and system agent voltage from P0 revision, which in this case might not be working because the previous chip from R0 revision showed that sorry, I was interrupted. Well, so the previous chip from R0 revision showed that the CPU VCCO voltage was demanded to hold up 3600 megahertz RAM with CL16 was 1.328 volts, so much higher. But anyway, we will try this up, because 5 chips from P0 revision we're working flawlessly with this test setup. Okay, we will get to the, as you can see, this one scaled exactly at 1.323 with the bias 1105. Okay, well, let us try to start Corona benchmark 5.1 gigahertz. Failed. Okay. Let's get to the prepared for this revision. What changed? Well, the only thing that changed, I have to change VCCO at 1.331, give the memory higher voltage, and give the CPU core voltage higher voltage. It will be probably about 1.28 in which is visible in CPU Z, but anyway, let us try and check the temperatures. Okay. As you can see, the voltage for this configuration is lower, as it's 1.314, 1.323, and again system is asking for higher Vcore. Of course, some manuals will tell you that 3B is for lower Vcore. Maybe it might be for the lower Vcore. So we will test one more thing. The batch is the same, but the difference between serial numbers is in more than few hundreds or a few thousand CPUs. So what can we do? We can set offset at auto, DRAM voltage at auto, VCCO at auto, and system agent at auto. This is only 5.1, so it's not a high frequency for the CPUs, as I have made the Corona test at 5.4 even with P0 revision. Oh yeah, I found the code 23 again. No one knows what that code means. Okay, great, thank you. Hopefully this one will survive. 23 again. The last time P0 revision was returned after code 23, which the board couldn't handle and the other board couldn't start this CPU. Okay. The question now is different BIOS with any overclocking damaging the CPU? Well, this one is not damaged. The previous one was damaged, as I can see. Okay, the system failed. The system doesn't know what to give at those memories, at this. Okay, let's say I will give it offset 30. I will give the DRAM 1.4225, and I will give VCCO voltage 125. VCCSA I will give 1.15. Okay. CPU standby mode 1.12. Okay. PCH Vcore voltage 1.1. Okay. Let's go up to 46. I know better. Anyway, so we lowered the Vcore by offset of 50 millivolts. Because previously it didn't went through Corona test at R0 revision. Now the Vcore is stated 1.225, which is quite low. But anyway, vid, as vid is showing 1 to 15. Okay, let's go with the flow. So, if somebody asks me if R0 revision is better than P0 revision, the answer from quite good overclocker, enthusiast overclocker, is no, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's worse, and in fact, it is much worse. It will demand different bias. It will demand much higher VCCO voltage. It will demand much higher VCCSA voltage. It will also demand much higher DRAM voltage. Let's go and check if we are able to get past through this test with a voltage offset even higher than at the previous chip. So burn, yes, you're gonna burn. Well, what I have to say, yes, those chips looks like they are 2 or 3 degrees of Celsius cooler than P0 revision at stock settings. That might be my, let's say, feeling about it, because I'm not testing those CPUs at standard settings all the time. I'm testing them if fair enough overclocking for very good precision, let's say, work in CAD and all the stuff. And the P0 revisions were stable as hell at 5.1. This is not the case. R0 revision is failing despite having lower voltage here. It is failing all the time. So maybe Lumi had other different batch. Maybe it was engineering sample because it was pre-sales. Maybe the bias was much different, but the bias 0.805 doesn't work with those CPUs, and the only bias that works is 1105. The microcodes with the biases from ASRock, Asus, and other manufacturers, so Gigabyte, are the same in those BIOSes because they were delivered by Intel, and they are not different. Z390 is also the same chipset, so yes, I understand at 5.2 it will do some tests, but in the fair good amount of testing, this CPU, this revision fails totally in the meaning of performance and heat generated by it. So let's try again. Now we have 1.296 at the start of Corona benchmark. And 1.332, 1.341, and that's the temps. Despite the voltage that here it is showed as 1.341 with the second chip, we have the same amount of power package, core package, and we have temperatures which are much more higher than P0 revision. This is the second chip, and so it's the same batch, but it's the much different serial number. I think those CPUs are fairly enough one from each other in the meaning of manufacturing in this batch. So what I can say, there's throttling at 5.1 gigahertz with 360 megahertz RAM, 36 megahertz RAM. That's normal. That's just Corona after changing the overclocking settings. The cooling is the same. Everything is the same. Just the chips are different. R0 revision is something that should be thrown out of the window. It is not a better revision. And I have two chips like that. Well, 3V means, as I said, too low Vcore. No, the Vcore is not too low. No, it's not too low. But anyway, let's get to other thing. Let us get to the things that changed in the BIOS. I will shut down motherboard. I will change the BIOS from which we start. I will start it at 0.805 BIOS. I haven't seen that before. 25. What is this? What is 25? The codes of unknown. Okay, it will start in safe mode. Great. It will not start in safe mode now. The second chip is not starting with BIOS 0.805. Code 50. Anybody knows what is code 50? Don't know. 7F. It goes like through the mud. Oh, 4. Code 50. I don't know what this code means. Safe mode, safe mode. Get into the safe mode. Please. BIOS is updating. No! 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 What? No. It wants to force the update of the BIOS to the worst BIOS. So 1105. I don't want this BIOS on another chip, because I have 0.805, which is better for P0 revision in overclocking. Okay, that is dirty playing when the user is not owning the equipment, is just buying the possibility to use it and cannot be and can be forced to be using bias which is not the one he wants. Okay, I probably have to have this change because it will not, I cannot overcome this. But I'm saying that this pisses me off a lot. Really. This is just the bad. I don't want another bias. I don't want another bias. I don't want another bias. The bias is updating. No, I don't want another bias. Yeah, I had bias 0.805 at the other chip on the board. I don't have bias 0.805. Very funny. So my 0.805 profiles probably went into the drain because I don't have them anymore. Tools, Asus user profiles. Oh yes, I have them, but those user profiles are for revision 0.5 and this one is 0.5. What happened? I don't know. Okay, let's check one thing here. Let's test profile 6, which is the standard for P0. So probably something from Intel microcode was copied to the another bias. No, I don't want this Windows. Skip. Yep. How funny is this? Okay, I have to change the disk from which I'm starting. Okay. Management engine changed. Okay. That will be funny to see also what it shows in hardware info, because previously when there was no new 1105 BIOS and I started R0 revision. Well, it doesn't work with the test setup from the P0 revision. Does it even works at optimized defaults at now changed 0.805? I don't know. This is how we do it. Okay, so at this BIOS, the user cannot get into the Windows 7, probably. I remind you, we have resetted the BIOS to UEFI defaults, and this doesn't work. Okay, let's try again to load UEFI defaults, and we will get CPU core voltage at offset mode. We will give the CPU 30 more volts. We will try it with the standard setting of the memory. I didn't want any change made to my BIOS at my motherboard because I'm planning to get back to P0 revision. Many of the new BIOSes are totally making for user unable to get to previous BIOSes. I don't know how this one works, but I must to say that I already have been using 0.0105 BIOS stable, and so I have downloaded the new correct BIOS 1105, but as you can see, I am right now unable to get into my Windows 7 at BIOS 0.105, which for P0 revision was much better, as I'm saying. The question will be, if I'll buy myself P0 revision, will I be able to get into BIOS and let's say update the BIOS to the same BIOS 0.05, which was very good for P0 revision, or will I be blocked with this management engine? Well, we are now back to the 1105 and we are seeing the same mistakes and same problems which we had at 0.05 revision at the beginning. Something changed and you are a witness of that change. We should be now getting into BIOS, but the system is connected to internet and system took something. 9A? What is this? Sorry, I really don't know. Let us power down the system, which takes a lot of time because this is not 1300 watt power supply. Okay. We should now be starting at funny. Okay. So now 1105 BIOS is updating to prevent BIOS failure. How funny is this? We are at this BIOS. This is 1105 BIOS. But I want to use Windows 7. This is 1105 BIOS. Well, after management engine changed to 12.06.11.20, now I am unable to get into the Windows 7. I was not aware that getting into BIOS 0.005 and back to 1105, and that gives this effect. Okay, so I will end with this pretty failure. I will end this video. As you can see, the system is unable to get into the BIOS. I'll check if I have my disk with BIOSes. Oopsie. In fact, I don't really know where this disk is, and I will have to make another one. Unbelievable. Oh no, I have this one here. Let's try it. I have to save biases. Okay. So I have to do it because I don't want to get Okay. Tools. It is not overwriting the BIOS. It is not overriding management engine. The management engine is intact. It is not. This is not update. Not over. Let's say overwriting the BIOS. It is only checking if the version is okay and getting into the memory, and also deleting the profiles. Well, only thing I can say is that I will try to force flashback on this BIOS and to get to my system. That's all. Thank you very much. The new BIOS and the new management engine destroyed the possibility of getting into Windows 7 system. That's all I know right now. Thanks, bye bye. Well guys, I have to say there is no difference in amount of int or amount of silicon used on R0 revision. P0 had the same, so saying that something is different here, it's just not truth. And the other thing I have to say is that R0 is getting much worse outcomes, lower voltage, but also it cannot go in scores that high like P0, so there's no difference here. There is negative difference in benchmarks. I wouldn't say it's a better revision. Okay guys, now this is, as I said, R0 revision. The clocks and all the settings are the same Benchtable with all the things the same. I have tested this CPU thoroughly, so without delete and with delete, 2 chips without delete and now 1 with delete. What can I say? Those settings are the same settings almost like I have with P0. R0 chip at BIOS 1105 doesn't work with override voltage. It just doesn't want to scale with the voltage correctly, and it shows PSODs. And now the thing that is very important in reviewing this chip is the thing of its performance. The summarizing of performance of this chip is hard. Well, this is Corona benchmark for P0 revision CPU number 1 at voltage 1.323 1 minute 27 seconds. As you can see, the DDR4 memory are at 3600s, CL16, and clocks are the same. It was very hard to achieve the same settings at chip R0. P0, 3 chips had started and worked with this profile flawlessly. The thing is that if you look at P0 revision Corona temperature results, 76 CPU packets, 79 Core Max. This was CPU number 1, CPU number 2, 82 and 81 degrees. CPU number 3 had problems without delete, 88 degrees. Still, P0 revision, chip number 3. Okay. So, get to the delete and delete that CPU number 1, 73, CPU package 79, Core Max. CPU 2, 75 and 75, CPU 3, 73 degrees. Now test again with CPU number 1, and again it has 1 minute 27 seconds and 77-78 degrees after eager cruncher tests. Aquanauts, okay, and this is R0 test without delete, 84 and 89 degrees. Okay, this is CPU deleted, but after tests of eager cruncher, 1 minute 28, 93, 88 degrees with a voltage of, here you have it, 1.279. So this chip should be cooler than P0 revisions. This revision R0 is hotter even after delete, and also it scores a second worse. Okay, so CPU number 1 had 58 seconds in V-Ray and maximum temperature was 74. CPU number 2 deleted, 59. Deleted CPU 3, 58 and 79 and 80 degrees. Grinded CPU 1, 74 degrees, 59 seconds. And let us find CPU number 4, so R0 revision with DDR at 3200s, CL15, 1 minute 2 seconds, 91 and 89 degrees. Core Max 89, CPU package 91. This is the same thermal paste, the same cooler, and yeah, so this is after delete. So from 91 and 89 we came to 81 degrees. But still, with DDR4 at 3600s now, we have 1 minute 2 seconds. There is no thermal throttling like it was without deleting. Now we have the same time. As you can see, grinded and deleted the CPU 1 had 80 degrees in this test with higher voltage after many different tests to check if the voltage will be making it performing better. It did not. Well, and what can we say about tests in VU Prime? This is VO prime without delete at CPU number 1, 77 degrees. CPU number 2, 83 degrees. CPU number 3 without delete, 92 degrees. So even P0 revision has better and worse chips. You have to know that the silicon lottery is big. But R0 revision had here 88 degrees and 86 degrees. But look at the scores, and the scores are very different. Even though the P0 revision had 92 degrees without thermal throttling, it had 2 seconds, 324 milliseconds, and 65 seconds in this benchmark. And P0 revision, all of them had 65 seconds. Now there is 2 seconds 48, 480 milliseconds, and 72 seconds at the same settings almost. Here you have memories which are different, but R0 revision has, I think, problems, and this is not the best case that I ever seen. So in Y Cruncher, CPU 1 had 252 seconds and 86 degrees without delete. CPU 2 had 93 degrees, CPU 3 had 99 degrees. So yes, the silicon lottery is heavy on i9-9900k. But if we get to the delete, and CPU deleted first CPU deleted 82, second 85, 86, and third 90 after delete. So but let's get to the deleted R0. Deleted R0 Y Cruncher version 6. Oh, unknown format. It didn't even, yeah. Okay, so let's get to the V7. V7, well, 95 and 96 degrees in this benchmark after delete, with the same settings for RAM, with almost the same settings for Vcore, but as I told you before, it doesn't go with override. So let's check the temperatures of Y Cruncher number 7 with CPUs which are not deleted. 88 degrees, 87 degrees. So this is not deleted chip from P0 revision. Okay, this is CPU number 2 and it had 96 degrees, and I don't know if I have CPU number 3 because it didn't pass it. Y Cruncher V7. Oh yeah, here it is. 91, 92. So higher and higher. But this deleted R0 revision for Y Cruncher version 7 is in fact one of the hottest still. So I cannot say, as you can see, 95, 96, that R0 revision is better than P0 revision. It is not. The BIOS is somewhat different. The scores are almost the same, but only in AVX tasks. And also the thing which is much different, as I told you, The standard for this CPUs and also for TG5 and grinded CPU and all the stuff which is because this is CPU P0 with grinded cores. I have to say that after delete P0 had 83 degrees with grinded cores. And look at the scores again. P0 revision had 2 seconds, 325 milliseconds, 65 seconds. So all P0 revision were quite good in terms of overclocking. But here we have some very tricky situation that Intel is telling us that those chips should be better, and they're not. We will try to push the test right now. So Prime, and I'll show you how it goes. This is, as I told you before, look here. This is 1.279 volts. This is the same settings for DRAM, and this is the standard test. $2.494. So it's much worse. Let's go to the benchmark for 1024 megabytes. Millions, I'm sorry. This is the leaded chip. It has liquid metal under IHS. The voltage is lower. 80 degrees. Let's say it's okay at this settings. So it's 200 megahertz higher than standard. But in fact, as you can see, now we have 80% done. Look at the score at Prime. 72 seconds. Something in microcode or in those chips changed. I don't know if Intel has sold the better chips at the, let's say, the first revision, so P0, and he knew that there will be a problem, so the voltage is a little bit lower, but also the scores are lower. As I said before, it might be that those chips that they demand, let's say, lower voltage for the same task will be better in liquid nitrogen or liquid helium tests. But in the same tests on the same IO cooling, so liquid cooling, with same RAM, same almost same voltages, which if I lower the voltage, so here we have plus 70 millivolts, it will not pass the tests. So with demanded voltage as low as it can be, those chips are hotter and performing worse. So if you think about, well, I will sell my P0 revision which has nice temperatures and I will buy myself R0 revision, don't do it. It's fairly nice chip when it's going at its standard settings. It's okay. I cannot say it's bad. It passes the test at newest BIOS. It's okay. About 70 degrees at full load at this big I/O cooler. But if we look at the test of P0 revision with which are deleted, so this is the score: 65 seconds and 76 degrees at P0 revision at CPU 1. Deleted, the same settings, the higher voltage, the lower, but the temperatures are lower, and there is a 7-second gap in those computing performances. So in my opinion, I'm sorry, as I see that there will be no big change if I delete the second CPU, because I've deleted already 12 CPUs, i9-9900k, so there will be no change, big difference. Both of these chips to pass without any problems. The tests, both of those chips demands a lot of voltage at, as I said, VCCEO and VCC-SA. This CPU VCCEO was not observed at P0 revision. I have to say I had 1.26 max at some of them, and fairly enough was 1.23. I know and I see that the core voltage is lower here, but it doesn't correspond with temperatures at the chip. So it might be it's better for extreme overclocking, but for standard overclocking, so enthusiast overclocking, and also for overclocking like gaming rigs or any other usage, R0 revision, in my opinion, as I have two with fairly spreaded serial number, I have to say this chip is worse. And that's my opinion. Thank you for your attention. I'm sorry that this was that long, but I wanted you to know that the tests were made correctly. Thank you. Have a nice day.